screen, so they're not quite ready. So we'll. Good afternoon, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, November 7th, 2024. And I'd like to actually begin and congratulate Vice Chair Wisenhunt and Commissioner Linville on their victories last Tuesday, a couple days ago. They were reelected. And I also want to welcome for his first term our newest commissioner, Greg Wilson. So glad to have you here. He's been a part of us and an appointed member, his first election. Very good. We're going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Pastor Mark Key. Please welcome him. He's going to come forward and will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Wisenhunt. And I certainly want to thank Pastor Mark Key. He was my pastor for about 9 years, and he's been retired, and he still continues to volunteer, and appreciate you coming down.
You haven't changed a bit, Don.
All right.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good. Please stand if you're able. Sorry. Thank you.
God says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Let's pray. Almighty God, God of all people, God of creation, God of us all. As we gather this day, we invite your presence into this place, into this space, seeking your guidance and direction in all matters. We give thanks to you for our commissioners and pray that you'll bless them with wisdom and knowledge, understanding, and discernment. We thank you for our government leaders. We pray your blessings upon them, Lord. We pray for a peaceful transition of power in our country. We thank you for our country. We thank you for our democratic system of government. And we pledge to you, God, our responsibility as we all seek to act justly and speak with kindness. Lord, we pray for our world. We pray for peace. We pray that those who are hurting in any way will experience your help and your hope. Make us all people of kindness and goodness and compassion. We give you praise, glory, honor, and thanks. And all God's children said,
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, you may do so by calling 336-422-1200, and you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins. That number again is 336-422-1200. For those members of the audience who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, we do have a small speaker card outside the door. Encourage you could actually do that now even and return and actually give it to our clerk, Ashley Matthews, at the end of the dais. The first two items today actually on the agenda are public hearings on the zoning petitions of Front Street Wahlberg LLC, known as F-1646 as well as F-1647, and the petitioners actually requested that we continue those matters until December the 5th, 2024. I'm going to make a motion that we continue those, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wisenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Thank you. Raise your hand. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a resolution designating new review officers to review and certify maps and plats for Forsyth County, North Carolina, in accordance with NCGS, North Carolina General Statutes 47-30.2. We have a list. I was not prepared to read it, but are any of you here? I assume you would know that. We've got a lot of folks here, and if you were here, I'd ask you to stand up. But in any case, is there a motion to approve our list?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Vice Chair Wisenhunt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand, please. Next item on the agenda is a resolution supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans in Forsyth County, North Carolina. And Vice Chair Wisenhunt will actually read the motion, and I think we're going to show some slides.
Correct. We are going to show some of the slides of what our general services and park and recreation folks have done to light up some of our buildings in green. So I wanted you all to realize what those slides are about and how proud I am of these folks and what they've done for veterans. Resolution supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Whereas the residents of Forsyth County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all of the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas the contributions and sacrifice of the men and women who serve the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Whereas Forsyth County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of us all. Whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by serving the Department of Veterans Affairs and as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. Whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian life annually, whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to the civil life in the near future. Whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. Whereas active military service members transitioning from military service at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. Whereas the National Association of Counties encourage all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans, and therefore the Forsyth County appreciates the sacrifice of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now therefore be resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby supports Operation Greenlight by lighting certain county buildings green for the period beginning November 4th through November 11th, 2024, the week of Veterans Day, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. And be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Forsyth County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or resident during the week of Veterans Day, November 4th through November 11th. This will be adopted the 7th day of November 2024, and I move approval.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a resolution recognizing November 20th, 2024 as the 25th anniversary of International GIS Day. And I'd like to invite Shaylee Brown, our Geographic Information Officer, to receive the resolution. And please join Commissioner Bessie. Can you go down, you can be in the picture, and do the works. There we go. Thank you.
Wow.
It should be. The one to give it. It's right to the left when you're there. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm guessing that I was selected for this honor because I'm a map geek. I love y'all's work. So I'm very happy to offer this resolution on behalf of my fellow commissioners. This is a resolution recognizing November 20th, 2024 as the 25th anniversary of International GIS Day. Whereas the first geographic information systems or GIS Day, celebration was held in Washington, D.C. during Geography Awareness Week in 1999. And whereas GIS applications provide critical support for public and private organizations who use this essential technology to perform their work in sectors including but not limited to public health, disaster response, environmental assessment, tax, planning, infrastructure management, and education. And whereas the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners recognizes GIS as an important device for improving public services and increasing government efficiency. And whereas celebrating GIS Day through events open to students, citizens, and government leaders highlights the work of GIS professionals and helps achieve greater awareness of the benefits of GIS. And whereas the City County Geographic Information Office, MAP Forsyth, will be hosting the Piedmont Triad Regional GIS Day 25th anniversary event at Triad Park on November 20th, 2024. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes November 20, 2024 as the 25th anniversary of International GIS Day, adopted this 7th day of November 2024, and I so move.
Second that. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Would you care to make remarks?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Bessie and Commissioners. We are very excited to be celebrating the 25th anniversary coming up at Triad Park. The County Manager's Office has graciously accepted our invitation to give the welcoming speech again this year. We have roughly 80 people going to be in attendance, and I would like to actually invite the rest of our group to come up. So in attendance today, we have, of course, Matt Forsyth, but we also have GIS staff from County Tax, City IS, and City County Planning. I want to recognize them all, and I will tell you this is not everyone. So City County Utilities could not come, City Rec and Park could not come, City Stormwater, as well as Kernersville, Louisville, and Clemens all said thank you, and they were unable to come. But this is kind of what your GIS staff looks like here at the county. And with that, thank you.
Why don't you see if you can turn around for a picture? Maybe, I know Todd's over here. Maybe you get some kind of way you can get everybody in a picture.
Request here. Tall folk in back, shorter folk up front. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for what you do. And thanks for being here today. That was a nice visual image. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the meeting of October 17th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
I move.
Commissioner Bessie makes that motion. Is there a second? Oh, did I skip one? I apologize. Excuse me. The sixth item was the one before that. It's a resolution adopting the county boundary between Forsyth County and Guilford County as surveyed by the North Carolina Geodetic Survey. We've actually had a presentation on that and reviewed it. Is there a motion to adopt our new Forsyth County, Guilford County boundary? Motion by Commissioner McDaniel. Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Now we're ready for the minutes of October 17th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut, second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any callers or speaker cards?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any calls or speaker cards.
Oh, all righty. I'd like to turn the meeting over to our county manager, Chantel Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and guests. The agenda items before you have been briefed twice and hopefully questions answered. Agenda item number 9 is a resolution authorizing spending for 2023 PAYGO projects for Parks and Recreation, General Services, the Library, and the Animal Shelter, and an associated amendment to the 2023 PAYGO Capital Projects Ordinance to authorize projects for Parks and Recreation, General Services, the Library, and the Animal Shelter. These projects total $3.75 million.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 10 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources grant for the America 250 project in the amount of $10,000.
Have a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 11 is an amendment to the 25 budget ordinance to appropriate a United States Environmental Protection Agency grant for air monitoring and air quality sensors for Forsyth County Department of Environmental Assistance and Protection. This agenda item is necessary to appropriate the $155,200 grant.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? Certainly want to thank our staff for submitting that grant and appreciate the opportunity for us to enhance our air monitoring and air quality sensors. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 12 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Division of Aviation to apply for and accept if awarded an Advanced Air Mobility Planning Grant. This authorizes the airport to apply for $300,000 and will require using the airport's revenues for the 10% local match.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 13 is a resolution approving the purchase of suspect vehicle tracking tag system and services under an exception to the bidding laws codified in North Carolina General Statute 143-129E6 and awarding a contract to Star Chase LLC. And it has an associated amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate $89,194 in state unauthorized substance use tax revenue proceeds. There were some follow-up questions on this item. A memo was sent to all of you, and the sheriff is here to answer any additional questions if you have them.
I have a couple. Who's going to answer the question?
The sheriff.
Oh, the sheriff. I didn't see the high sheriff in the back.
Congratulations on the elections. Pleasure to be here. Hadn't seen you in a while. Good to see you all.
Thank you. Are you ready for a question or two?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got it. Yes, yes.
I did read, I appreciated Randy Hunsecker's memo he sent. No, I don't want to, and he did mention in that and the other materials, the selection of vehicles I believe you want to experiment with 8. And there were 2 JIT team mentioned vehicles. And I was a little curious about, are JIT team vehicles involved? And I just basically, you said you kind of looked at what vehicles and areas, have been involved in high-speed chases. And I was a little curious about the JIT team folks being engaged in high-speed chases.
Yes, sir. As you all know that, when you approved the JIT team was a twofold investigation as well as intervention. And by them being law enforcement officials, there have been times where they have been engaged in car chases because a lot of times before they get into intervention, there's some investigation. And a lot of times we have no idea what they're dealing with. And that's how the car chases begin. So when we were looking at the vehicles that we wanted to place them on, those were 2 of the vehicles that we decided that would benefit from that.
And just to reiterate, you do plan to pay for those with funds you have now as sort of a pilot experiment.
Yes, sir.
And
we have the funding with you all permission to do that. But in the upcoming year, which is a conversation down the road, we may be asking for $15,000 a year to sustain that. But right now, we want to explore it, see the benefits of it. We think that it will benefit the community, i.e. there's savings involved in terms of property damage, life, because as you know, we have been engaged in car chases as well as damaging vehicles as well as property. So we just want to explore it and see the benefits of it right now.
Yeah, I did watch the videos, and I expect some other of our folks did too. And obviously, and they were obviously real. They weren't. There was one simulation, but they were pretty much real videos. Obviously, those cars they were doing 90 to 100 miles an hour before they could fire the dart, which there's a lot of high speed to get close enough to fire the dart at that speed. But in any case, I assume the evaluation is accidents issues. Is that prevention of accidents?
Yes, sir. So we looked at the video as you all looked at it too, and a lot of it was, as you say, high-speed chases, but we have looked at and saw how we could evaluate it and do it totally different. Before we ever engaged the blue light system, we could deploy the DART system, which would eliminate the high-speed chases that you saw in the video. So once I engage the blue lights, if you run, it doesn't really matter because the DART has already been deployed. People only run when the lights come on. So if I know that I want to stop John Doe Smith's vehicle, I've already deployed the DART. So when I cut the lights on, if John Doe decides to go, we let him go. We already have what we need from him.
Yeah, probably my only issue is that on 8 cars, if they have if they have no accidents and you deploy it only a couple of times, do you anticipate experimenting 2 or 3 years before we start looking at expanding? I'm kind of looking at
Right.
I think you're looking at $1,500 a car, and I don't know how many total cars that you have available, but you obviously don't switch them out of cars and they're not easy to move.
Right.
So if you're going to have them available, you could be talking about a much bigger annual fee than $15,000.
Of course. So if it does what we hoping it does, of course we want to expand it because our policy is that if you violate the law in Forsyth County, we will address those issues. So if it does what it says, then quite natural, we will want to expand the number of vehicles that we have them on. But until we get that data to where we show that it's working and doing exactly what it says it does, right now, all we're asking for is the number that we brought forward last week.
Yeah, in a year from now, at budget time, I'm not so sure we're going to have the data necessary to make yet another decision. And that also requires your office to keep a lot of records.
Yes, sir.
So that we have some inkling and idea of that. My general feeling was pretty opposed to this, but I also believe in experimenting with things, and you're putting your resources redirected for this year to do that. I just also know that sometimes we buy into a long-term maintenance item that I'm not so sure is producing the results that we might think it does. Although I will mention that we did have the number of cars that were totaled this year that were sheriff's vehicles, and that was a big number. And I obviously, if we can, and that's clearly, I'm surprised there were not more injuries, and I'm thankful there were not.
Yes.
But in any case, does anybody else have any questions for the sheriff?
I appreciate you all believing in us again in new technology. When we explore new technology, we have brought you results that have been favorable, and all we're asking is to allow us to believe in us again. We haven't failed you yet.
Any other questions? Yes.
I appreciate the explanation for your deployment plan.
Yes, sir.
Because it seems from a common sense basis that the pre-activation of the blue light deployment provides more opportunity to avoid the chase. There are inevitably legal challenges of any kind of surveillance technology based on Fourth Amendment questions. Have you anticipated that? And if so, do you have a policy for the circumstances under which you will deploy prior to activation of the blue light?
Yeah, so we're looking at some policies on how we would deploy it. Of course, we would touch bases with our attorneys, but as we understand it from the legalities that have been involved, is that as of now, the system is not violating any policy because you don't have any expectation of privacy in open air. So we are well within the right to deploy them. If you break the law and we have a legal suspicion that you have broken the law, whatever it may be, and we're going to initiate blue lights, we can deploy the Star Chase system to avoid any type of other issue that may come from actually chasing someone. And that was the thing that caught my attention. When I saw what it does, I know the number of traffic stops that we're engaged in. I know that. I see the numbers like you all see them. And what I was looking for and what we were looking for is something that we can do the same thing safe. And that was the solution that we came up with. And that is why we're asking you to allow us to use those dollars. Right now, we're not asking for any money from the commissioners right now. I'm not saying down the road. I always come back home to mom and pop and say, hey, we need this. But right now, we just want to explore this and see the benefits of it.
If I may have a follow-up. So you might, for example, choose to deploy if you have a car reported as stolen, and you've identified this as potentially the car reported as stolen. Or if you had a report of a vehicle being involved in a shooting incident, and you've identified this as probably the vehicle. Would that be a typical case that you would be?
Yes, sir. Of course.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Any other questions?
Yes. So with this feature, one asset would be that it might reduce the exposure for the kind of catastrophic accident, even a fatality, which carries, a exposure that is hundreds of thousands, if not more than that, above the cost of this type of equipment, correct?
It's a great point. It definitely is that hits it home, Mr. Wilson, because so many times, as you know, and you all know, we have been in situations where a fatality has occurred. And I think that having a system like that is another preventive measure to where we don't have to chase. We don't have to do that. We know where you are. We just wait till you stop.
Finally, any other questions? Final call.
I appreciate you all, and thank you again for your support. Thank you, Doc.
All right, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 14 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Partners Health Management in an amount not to exceed $4,719,464 to reimburse expenses of the vendor selected to operate the 16-bed adult facility-based crisis center.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner Bessie. Actually, I was thinking, I do have one question. Actually, in thinking about, obviously, the center it will also file for, when appropriate, Medicaid reimbursement and or insurance. And I was almost looking at double payment here. If the expenses are being paid, and I realize this is our state dollar proposal we're sharing with Charlotte, help me understand the follow the money issue here when I looked at the expenses being paid.
Fantastic question. So we will be monitoring for revenues, and revenues will be reduced in the amount that they are reimbursed. What we don't know in this first year of operation is what that is going to look like. It will depend entirely on how many people come to the facility with an insurance billable source. So we will reduce the amount paid to them by any amount that they collect.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Let's see, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Agenda item number 15 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the agreement with WC Construction Company, LLC, for the airport car wash project, and an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate $925,294 of restricted fund balance for the airport car wash project, and an amendment to the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport Capital Projects Ordinance to accept a transfer of $925,294 from the general fund for the airport car wash project.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and agenda item number 16 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor collector in the amount of $20,511.76.
Do we have a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. I'll be happy to second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
That is all the agenda items for the meeting, sir.
That's good. We will adjourn this meeting, and we're ready now to start our briefing session, which will be a little more detailed since we are out for
The
meetings,
NCACC
the
Legislative
NCACC
Conference.
meeting next week, next Thursday. All righty. So we'll call to order the, second one. We're going to call to order the November 7th, 2024 briefing, and this will be our only briefing of this item this month. We have two items that are discussion items. The Department of DOJ delivers with Luke Perrin from the North Carolina Department of Justice, and we also have the North Carolina DOT update from Pat Ivey. So, Luke, please come forward. We're ready. Good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Is there a way to get slides? Okay. We're going to stall right here until we get these pulled up. Or I have, I'd sent it. Yeah, I just wasn't sure where. Sure, would it be? Which one's it labeled on? 11.7, right there. Yep, there we go. Are we good? We sharing? All right, very good. Thank you again. My name is Luke Perrin, and I am here on behalf of the Public Protection Section at the North Carolina Department of Justice. We are the kind of policy and outreach arm of the department, so we have a little bit kind of a broader mandate than a lot of folks within our office, working on issues regarding public safety, outreach specifically, working with legislators, those kinds of things. And I'm here today to give you all just a brief update on some of the stuff that our office has been working on in the last few years, specifically here in Forsyth County and across the state, and to also let you know about a new tool that we have launched called DOJ Delivers, that is an area of accountability and transparency for our office. Our office is dedicated to accountability, it's dedicated to transparency and making sure that citizens know where their taxpayer funds are being spent, make sure citizens know specifically about our work and what that looks like. You can go to, or I'll skip that for a second just to talk a little bit about our mission. But the way we always like to describe it is that we protect the people of North Carolina through three specific ways: by preventing crime, supporting law enforcement, by safeguarding consumers, which is kind of something that, especially with Hurricane Helene out west, something our office has been really focused on the last month, along with defending the state, its people, and their constitutional rights. So DOJ Delivers, like I said, this is a data mapping tool that we have added to our website that basically accumulates all of the data that we have on the stuff that we've worked on since the beginning of Attorney General Stein's administration 8 years ago. So this includes all aspects of law enforcement certification. This includes criminal appeals we've worked on, consumer complaints, XYZ. So you can go to ncdoj.gov/DOJ-delivers, and you can find whatever county you want to look for. So maybe you do want to look at Forsyth County and see kind of specifically what that work looks like. And that's the stuff I'm going to talk about today. Maybe you want to go over to a neighboring county. Maybe you want to go and look at what's going on in Wake County. Maybe you want to go out west. You name it. We have every county for it. And you can specifically see the ways that we're working to keeping people safe, the ways that we are supporting law enforcement, and the ways that we are protecting consumers. So these are just some specific updates for you all here in Forsyth County, some of the funds that we have won specifically back for the county. So you will see on your briefing, the opioid settlement money, which I won't touch on a lot today because I'm sure you all are deeply familiar with, the opioid settlement funds that came from a $56 billion national settlement with opioid companies that's bringing desperately needed resources to communities harmed by the opioid epidemic. Funds won for consumers. Like I said, we have a consumer protection division that is one of kind of our largest and most visible divisions, and those folks work to protect consumers from scams and frauds. We've helped hundreds of thousands of consumers get millions of dollars back in restitution. Folks are able to file complaints with our office whenever they have a complaint against a business, against a service provider, against somebody who they feel has done them wrong monetarily. Our office reviews those complaints It has a couple different options. Sometimes if we receive a lot of complaints, we are able to specifically go after companies who are harming consumers through their deceptive practices. I'll give an example specifically that's happened in the last couple weeks. As you all know, obviously, with the hurricane out west in North Carolina's price gouging law has gone into effect, which essentially says that businesses are unable to unreasonably raise the prices of goods and services in disaster areas. As of a couple days ago, our office had received over 400 price gouging complaints, which we are investigating. And last week, we actually filed a lawsuit against a company that's actually based out of Durham, North Carolina. But in that lawsuit, we are alleging that they are price gouging for tree removal services. So alleging that folks went out west when the hurricane hit to provide tree removal services and are alleging that they unreasonably raised the price of those services. So you can see those funds won back. Those are funds that are directly won back through these consumer complaints. Like I said, a lot of these are against larger companies, but also we see some of these things happen where it is smaller individuals who are selling shoddy cars to their neighbor, and they submit a complaint to us, and we write a letter to them and say, hey, we received this complaint, and they end up settling with that specific person. If you look at Medicaid fraud, so those are recovery funds from DOJ's Medicaid Investigations Division. We investigate fraud by Medicaid health providers or suppliers, physical abuse of Medicaid patients, and also any kind of stealing or improper commingling of patient funds in Medicaid-funded facilities. Taxpayer funds and grants. These funds are included in the taxpayer, these are these are funds that are coming back from criminal cases that have been referred to us from the Department of Revenue. So we have a special prosecution section which indicts and folks that are referred to us from the Department of Revenue for any kind of taxpayer fraud, those kinds of things, and that is money that is won back specifically on taxpayer funds. And then all in all, total funds returned. That's just all of these numbers added up. If you have any specific questions about any of these kind of breakdowns of funds, I'm happy to answer those at the end if you just kind of want a little bit of what that looks like. To give a little bit of a law enforcement update for you all, so our office runs the State Crime Lab. And the number right there, as you will see, 5,869 pieces of evidence have been submitted to the State Crime Lab from Forsyth County. In the last 8 years, our office has also certified 842 law enforcement officers in Forsyth County. Moving on a little bit about the sexual assault kit backlog, this is one of the biggest priorities that our office has had over the last few years. As you might know, North Carolina had the largest backlog of untested sexual assault kits back in 2016 when Attorney General Stein took office. I'm pleased to say that as of April of this year, that backlog has been cleared. And as an extra measure of accountability, we have actually created a tracking dashboard. You can go to ncdoj.gov/testthekits, and you are able to keep real-time updates. It is updated 24/7 whenever a law enforcement agency submits a kit. It immediately goes to this dashboard. And so you were able to go in specifically, and as you'll see in your briefing, these are the specifics for Forsyth County. So all of these kits that have been submitted and tested specifically, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see where the hits on the CODIS system, which is the nationwide basically crime tracking system for evidence. And you're able to see where those CODIS hits from specifically this backlog have led to specific arrests in these cases. And as you'll see right here, this is just a lot of the stuff I've kind of talked about already, but this is directly from our DOJ Delivers webpage. So like I said, if you want to go to ncdoj.gov/DOJ-delivers, you're able to see more of this specifically. And then lastly, just to talk a little bit about some statewide and some local sample DOJ wins. Our office successfully won $40 million for North Carolina in commitments from Juul, which is the creator of the nicotine what's the word I'm looking for? The vape pens that a lot of kids use these days. I actually saw a stat a couple weeks ago from the CDC that floored me, and that's 1 in 5 youth report that they use e-cigarettes every single day. It is far and far away the most used tobacco product among young people. So that money from that settlement is being used by DHHS specifically to address youth tobacco use and specifically e-cigarette use. Our office also settled $14 million with Dish Network for illegal robocalls. All of that money is going to public schools. And then some of our litigation against Duke Energy has saved consumers in North Carolina $1.1 billion in coal ash cleanup. To get a little more specific about our work in Forsyth County, in February of this year, our office reached a settlement with First National Bank over allegations that the bank engaged in racially discriminatory redlining when providing home mortgages in the Charlotte and Winston-Salem areas. We reached this settlement in coordination with the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of North Carolina. First National Bank entered the North Carolina market in 2017. They acquired Yadkin Bank. They have 16 branches in Charlotte and 15 here in Winston-Salem. And our office alleged that from the period of 2017 and 2021, First National Bank avoided providing mortgage loans in areas that had a majority of Black and Hispanic residents. As part of this settlement, First National Bank has created an $11.75 million loan subsidy that's going to help increase credit and home mortgage loans for communities of color in the Charlotte and Winston-Salem areas. That's going to be used to originate loans, assist in down payments, closing costs, and help people pay insurance premiums. They're also opening a new branch in Winston-Salem to specifically provide financial services to residents of color, along with a laundry list of other things with the settlement, which I'm happy to touch on if you have any questions about that. Meta specifically, and I say this because and it's something I'm going to talk about here in just a second, as it relates to Forsyth County. Our office sued Meta last fall, along with 41 bipartisan attorneys general. Meta, if you don't know, is the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, and our office has alleged that they've designed their social media platforms to hook children and teenagers and deceive the public by claiming that these platforms were safe and suitable for young users. We basically alleged that that Meta knew that their platforms were harmful to children, that their algorithm was designed to addict children to them, and that they marketed toward young people and misled them on that. And then lastly, something near and dear to my heart because I am a college basketball fan, our office alleged that the NCAA's transfer rule illegally restrained college athletes' ability to change schools and play sports. So the rule required that college athletes who transferred among Division I schools used to have to wait out a year before competing, unless the NCAA made an exception and waived the rules. So last year, Attorney General Stein wrote letters to the NCAA criticizing the transfer rule that was used to prevent Wake Forest basketball player Efton Reed from playing after he transferred from Gonzaga to help his mother. The case was filed in conjunction with several other states' attorneys general, and our office reached a settlement with the NCAA that has actually permanently eased restrictions on athletes transferring and allows them to play immediately after changing teams. And then lastly, just a couple opportunities to work with us here at NCDOJ. Our office runs the lethality assessment program with currently 10 other counties in North Carolina. This is a program that we work with law enforcement agencies to assess risk for intimate partner violence situations. So this is a protocol where our office will help train folks, and it's a protocol that started with the University of Maryland, but essentially assesses whether a domestic violence situation, when something is called in, has the possibility of escalating or has previously escalated to something that could be lethal for the victim involved. Our Criminal Justice Fellows program is a fellowship program that provides forgivable loans to high school seniors and recent graduates to go to community colleges if they want to enter law enforcement and criminal justice fields. I will say that we currently do not have any criminal justice fellows from Forsyth County. So if you have a high schooler or a recent grad or someone in your life who has showed an interest in criminal justice, send them my way. We'd be happy to get them set up with the right folks. Because this is a great program and provides folks that opportunity who want to enter those fields. And lastly, we do educational outreach with the public. I mentioned specifically as it relates to Meta, and you can see the picture on your briefing as well. So that is what we call a social media town hall, and that is something that we did here in Forsyth County earlier this year, where we brought students and teachers and parents and principals, and you name it, and we sat them down and we asked the question, what is social media doing to your youth? How is it affecting your day-to-day lives? How it is affecting your classroom, your teaching, those kinds of things. And the kind of specific stuff that we got from that conversation, we have used to inform our engagement on the issue, to inform our litigation against Meta. We are using all of the feedback that we received from that session, and we've done these not just in Forsyth County, we've also done them in Wake County, Buncombe County, several other counties across the state. We also provide a lot of presentations for any kind of community groups, nonprofits you might know about. So if there's ever a topic that you'd have interest in having NCGOJ come present on, we would be happy to come and present. Again, DOJ delivers, ncdoj.gov/DOJ-delivers if you have any questions about that. And here's just a little bit of the contact information for some of the stuff that I've talked about today. And I will open the floor if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much for being here and
Yes,
giving
sir.
us that overview. I have one sort of curiosity question on, just like the example on your slide of where the dollars came from for Forsyth, just like in the Medicaid fraud, it's like 12 million something.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious, is that just a like a pro-citizen share of all that you collect in the state? I mean, was that really collected right here?
So that's
with Medicaid fraud here?
So that is specific to, so that 12.1 is specific to Forsyth County. So that's any facility that would be, and I don't, off the top of my head, have that full number for what the whole state would look like, but that is any kind of funds that have been recovered for example, a treatment facility here in Forsyth County, or an individual who is lived in Forsyth County, or the case was prosecuted here, those kinds of things. So I don't have the full statewide number, but I will just say that that specific number is just for Forsyth County.
But it's not a pro rata share of the state's total. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Take the state's total in sort of Medicaid fraud, if you will, and then you could prorate it out by county, by population, and have a number.
No, so it is, okay, actually, sorry, I misunderstood what you were.
Questions more about methodology.
Yeah, what you were saying, actually, that is correct. So that is a pro rata based on the kind of specifics of the state entirety. Yep, sorry, I misheard your
And I
question.
felt the same way probably for grants and other things. You write statewide grants.
So
we benefit in a pro rata share. Yeah.
So I will say, so the Medicaid is a pro rata. The consumer funds, the taxpayer funds, and opioid settlements are not a pro rata share. I guess the opioids would technically be pro rata, but the consumer funds and the taxpayer funds, those are specific individual cases.
You did explain that actually later.
Gotcha.
No, but that's very good. Appreciate that window to transparency, and appreciate
absolutely.
the work that you guys have been doing and trying to keep everybody in the loop and educate. Education is key.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Luke?
Yes. Thank you. Regarding the First National Bank settlement.
Yes, sir.
Do you have that visible online?
The specifics of
the specifics, the details of the settlement, the findings in the settlement.
Yeah, I believe those are public, but I can. I'll get those for you this afternoon, and I'll send them over to Ashley.
That'd be great. And again, if I would assume it's a public document. If it is, I would appreciate a hard copy as well.
I'll do what I can.
Thank you so much.
I do have a question in regards to the location of the new First National Bank in Winston-Salem. Do you know where?
I don't know the location off the top of my head, but I can figure out that, and I can send it over once I figure it out. I don't specifically know what that location is.
Okay. Thank you. That will be helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Was there other comments or questions? Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you all very much. I will stop the share.
All righty. We're pleased to have Pat Ivey, and I have also John Ryan on the list too coming up. Pat, are you in the short? You're in the short rows of.
Yes, sir, I am.
And when is it? And I noticed that. When is the date? December 30th?
January 1st.
January 1,
Yes, sir.
so it's right upon us. That's good. Well, we appreciated your work, as I hope you know.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's great to be here we appreciate the invitation to give the board an update on the state of transportation in Forsyth County. So let me make sure I can move this. There we go. Hold on just a moment. There we go. For those of you who, I think everybody's familiar with the layout of the divisions in North Carolina, but you see, of course, the 14 highway divisions, and of course, let's see. I'm going to get this. There we go. Division 9, of course, is located right there in the middle. It includes Stokes, Forsyth, Davie, Davidson, and Rowan counties. You see the population there. We maintain in those 5 counties nearly 5,000 miles of roads and 836 bridges spread across those five counties. And we do that with just about 450 permanent employees. I'm going to turn the floor over for a moment to my Deputy Division Engineer, John Ryan, and he's going to talk to you about a couple of the maintenance programs that I think you'll be interested in. John?
Very good. Good evening. Thank you for having us. Start off, Forsyth County in particular, population 383,000 plus or minus there. There are 993 miles of road in Forsyth County that we maintain, 333 bridges to kind of give you a sense of what we're up against there. Going to go over some maintenance and operations activities that have been going on or are going on. We've let 3 resurfacing contracts in Forsyth County in the last year, awarding around $16 million. And those 3 contracts will cover 50 miles of roadway. You can see those roads highlighted on your map there. Anything from secondary roads out in the county, Tobacco Road, Spanner Mill Road, Watkins Ford, all the way up to our major primaries, 421, 2 sections of 421 there, and a major primary there, 158, around the Haynesmall Boulevard area, moving out west into the county. So covering a lot of ground there, making a lot of good progress. That's an uptick in resurfacing from the past several years, so we're pleased that we've been able to get that out to contract. The resurfacing is something we do on our major roadways. On our more minor roadways, we apply an asphalt surface treatment. I'm sure y'all have got calls over asphalt surface treatment over the years, but it is a treatment that we apply to our lower volume roads under 1,000 cars a day. We've let 2 AST contracts in the last year totaling $2 million. Covering 24 miles. As you can imagine, we cover a little bit more mileage there for the dollar, a little more bang for our buck, but those are lower volume roads, so they don't need that structural asphalt as in other places. Most of that, we kind of do that cyclic, moving around the county in a pattern. So this cycle, we're up there in that northwest corner. As the next contract's out, it'll move around the county. That's what we've been managed to accomplish in the last two contracts there. All right, I will turn it back over to Pat, and he can talk about our current TIP projects.
Thank you, John. As you all know, John is a tremendous benefit to the division, and I am very, very lucky and blessed to have him. So let's give a quick update on the Beltway project. You see the map here in front of you. As you know, we have opened completed 3 sections, basically from Salem Parkway to the south, all the way up to US 52, which is that project that's under construction, the main interchange right there at US 52. We also have 2 projects under construction, and I'm going to go through each of those, show you a couple of photos there to just give you a quick update there. The 52 interchange, just to the north there in the Rural Hall area. Project is nearly complete. We expect that traffic will be placed in the final pattern before Christmas. That is the goal. As you remember, last year about this time, we opened partial connectivity to US 52. And if you've been on the Eastern Beltway, you know that traffic has increased substantially. So I think the GPS systems have caught on, and they are using that road quite a bit. So just a couple of photographs here. This is one looking toward Pilot Mountain to the north. And of course, this is looking back toward University Parkway. These photos are probably about 3 months old. There's been a lot of work going on since then. This again is looking north toward the Rural Hall area. You see the immensity of that interchange. And then finally, another look back toward the Winston-Salem area. So again, that project should be completed by the end of the year with full connectivity. Let's talk about the first of the last 2 projects under construction between Salem Parkway and Interstate 40. This was actually the largest project by dollar-wise that NCDOT has awarded in Division 9 at $261 million. They're actually 63% complete, and by schedule, they still have about 2 years' worth of work to do on this project, but they are actually ahead of schedule. You can see here a couple of photos. This is Kernersville Road. This is actually an older photo. We are actually working this coming weekend to actually shift traffic from the the temporary detour onto the new alignment of Kernersville Road. So, but with all the traffic stuff going on, I do recommend you stay away from that this weekend. But when school opens Monday, we hope that all that work will be done, including left turn lanes at Sedge Garden Road. So we've heard a lot about that. This is Sedge Garden Road, there where the Beltway goes under the road near Sedge Garden Elementary School. That project or that bridge should be completed by the first of this coming year. This is another look at Kernersville Road, and you can see Interstate 40 in the background. And of course, this is a recent photo of the interchange at Interstate 40, as is this. This interchange itself, just useless fact there, is about 300 acres just for the interchange itself.
Wow.
The very last piece of the Eastern Beltway, which is the interchange with I-74, what used to be US 311, that project is about 54% complete. Both the AB project and this one, AA, will both be completed by the end of 2026. We have a couple of photos here. You can see some of the flyover bridges that will carry the ramps over Interstate 74, or what was US 311. Again, you can see the photo looking north. All the clearing for the Beltway. You can see the power station, steam in the background there. This is a closer shot showing where the future Hastings Hill Road bridge will be located. And of course, this is another one looking south with I-74 in the background. Let's turn our attention just a little bit to the Western Beltway. With everything that's going on with I-74, the Eastern Beltway, definitely always want to assure people that the Western Beltway is still a top priority for NCDOT. When the last Transportation Improvement Program was awarded, unfortunately, the schedule for that project was pushed back a year. That is the EA section, which goes basically from US 52 to Highway 67, what I call the Bethania bypass, if you will. That project right now is scheduled to begin construction in 2030. The remaining projects that you see here, basically going from NC 67 down to Country Club Road, are currently in preliminary engineering only, and we have two projects from US 421 down to US 158, unfortunately fell out of the program altogether. As you know, we're in the process of developing the next version of the two-year plan. We expect the draft to come out after the first of the year, and we are hopeful that we will see some additional projects on the western side funded for construction. The good thing is, as you know, we've been dealing with the MAP Act for about 20 years out there, and but DOT right now, because of those MAP Act settlements, we already maintain more than own more than 95% of all of the right-of-way needed for the Western Beltway. So once funding is available for construction, we are ready to go. So a couple of other quick updates I want to give you. The widening of Haynes Mill Road to multi-lanes from Museum Drive to University Parkway, about 17% complete. The main emphasis there now is the new bridge over US 52. In Kernersville, the Piney Grove Road Connector, U6003. That project is about 37% complete. And that one is using a new typical section that we've started using here in Forsyth County at the request of some of the local governments. What this is a two-lane divided roadway, basically one lane in each direction with the bike lanes and sidewalks separated by a median. Now what that does, of course, it improves safety, it minimizes congestion, sort of a mini boulevard, if you will. But the town of Kernersville requested this as opposed to just a plain two-lane road, and expects that that will last much longer into the future. In addition to that, of course, you see here's a couple of other photos of construction looking back toward Linville Springs Road. This is some of the clearing and construction going on along the project itself. As you know, it's only a little over a mile long, so it's a fairly short project, and that's looking back toward the Macy Grove Road intersection there in Kernersville. Close to that is the widening of Highway 66 or Old Hollow Road in the Walkertown area, basically from US 158 to Old Walkertown Road or Harley Drive. That project is about 11% complete, started it late or earlier this year. A lot of grading and utility work going on. That project is scheduled to be completed in October of 2026. It's about a $28 million project. You see just a couple of older photos here you can see with some of the construction work and grading work going on in the area there. One project that you are getting ready to see a lot of work on is the widening of US 158 to 4 lanes, basically a 4-lane divided road between the intersection of Greensboro Road in Winston-Salem to just beyond Vance Road north of Walkertown. That is nearly an $88 million project. It's going to widen about 7 miles of US 158, again, to multi-lanes, and APAC and Smith Row Construction have got that work together, and they have just begun some of the drainage work, trying to wrap up clearing and utilities on that. But again, probably next spring, you will see a significant amount of work going on. So let me quickly talk about some projects that are on the near horizon that you're going to see. The Kernersville area, the Big Mill Farm Hopkins Road project, which will widen and improve Big Mill Farm Road and Hopkins Road from Highway 66 to Main Street, which includes a new interchange at Salem Parkway. This is a $71 million project, and it is scheduled to go to construction this spring in April. This is the other project that we are using this 2-lane divided roadway. You see here, this is actually a before and after. The picture on the left is what this road looks like today, and with this new typical section superimposed onto it, you will see what it will look like. It does limit access or limit the left turns, again, improving safety, providing for bicycles and pedestrians in these areas. But again, these roads will last much longer, again, with a new interchange at Salem Parkway. Over in Clemens, we are working on a project to improve Louisville-Clemens Road, basically from Peacehaven Road to US 158, that very congested corridor. Basically, this is an access management and operational improvements project. We're not adding to provide any additional capacity, but it's a very narrow road. We'll have a concrete median separating the lanes between Interstate 40 and probably just beyond Stadium Drive up there. And then we're providing bike accommodations and sidewalks from one end to the other, and significant improvements at the intersection of US 158 or Clemens Road. That project is currently in right-of-way acquisition. We're planning to start utility relocations very soon, and construction will begin in October of 2026. Still got a little ways to go on that one. Probably closer is the I-5880, which is interchange improvements on Interstate 40 at Highway 109. You know, this old interchange, which is a spread diamond interchange between Clemensville Road and Highway 109, we are converting that to a standard diamond interchange at Highway 109. The simple purpose for that is to improve that weave distance between 109 and the very congested interchange at US 52. Tremendous number of accidents, crashes in that location, and a lot of congestion. This project, we're on the tail end of this. It will be awarded probably next spring or early next summer as well. And then, with the time I have left, I want to brag a little bit about transportation, talk to you a little bit about some of the impacts, and give you some information that you may not have known. When you talk about transportation in general, just the construction aspects of new projects create approximately 110,000 jobs in North Carolina, and for every dollar that is invested in highway construction or transportation construction, it generates about $2 in increased investment in the state. Long-term benefits, however, you'll see right here, for every dollar that is invested in transportation, anywhere from $5 to $10 in economic investment. Huge. We all know that, but it's really neat to see it in print sometimes. But this is not just about highways. We're a multimodal agency. Rail impacts, you see right here, just a couple of notes, $20 billion in economic output, $990 million state and local taxes, and 88,000 jobs generated by rail in 2023 across the state. Aviation, we have a great airport here in Forsyth County. We have 72 public airports across the state. Together, they generate over $72 billion to the state's economy, supporting 330,000 jobs and generate $3.7 billion in state and local tax revenue. And then we have 2 ports, as you might know, in Morehead City and in Wilmington. $16 billion in economic output, 88,000 jobs, and $660 million in state and local tax revenue. So you can see that all the modes of transportation, but I don't want to leave out transit as well. You see all the local transit agencies, including PART, WISTA, and others across the triad, but you can see the numbers here. I will read what you see in red right here. For every $1 the state of North Carolina invests in transit, generates about $5 in total investment in North Carolina from federal and state sources. So we are a multimodal agency, and all those modes generate a significant amount of economic investment in this state. So lastly, you're going to hear a lot about this moving in the next couple of years in terms of transportation funding. Obviously, we'll never have enough to do what needs to be done. But as you know, North Carolina relies heavily on the gas tax, both federal and state. Federal funds in North Carolina represent 20% of our budget, where the state represents 80%. And you can see here, 43% of the state funds is through the gas tax, where 55% on the federal side. And here are the other revenues on the state side, where you talk about, again, the majority of it is the motor fuels tax, but also the highway use tax, sales tax, and DMV fees. And then, of course, the other 20%. But why do I mention that? Because the gas tax is not sustainable moving forward for a variety of reasons. Number one, gas vehicles, the internal combustion engine vehicles get much, much better mileage. And of course, we're seeing more and more electric vehicles on the road. Now, they do pay a fee, and I think the legislature did increase that to help balance that out. But nevertheless, we know that the gas tax is not sustainable moving forward. So what do? A lot of folks are talking about what we need to do to either add to or replace the gas tax moving forward. And we have got a new program, and I wanted to, it's something that has come out called Advanced Transportation in North Carolina. They're coming up with different ideas about how we might fund transportation. You see some possible options here. Many of these were generated by the NC First Commission a few years ago by DOT, but just a sampling of the mileage-based user fee, raising the gas tax, increase the motor fuels tax, registration fees, a lot of these. There are pluses and minuses with both of those. The bottom line is we've got to come up with ways to supplement or replace the gas tax. This is what I want you to take with you. We need your input. We need your ideas. Share this as much as you can. Here's the QR code here. But it is so important that NCDOT and our elected leaders from the legislature hear from you on what you think and how we might fund transportation moving forward. So if you didn't hear anything else I said, please take this with you and let us know what you would like. Lastly, I just want to say thank you. I came to Forsyth County in 2000 as a division engineer, and it truly has been one of the tremendous benefits and blessings that I have seen, mainly because of the relationships that we have been able to build with all of our transportation partners, including Forsyth County. I've had the privilege in 24 and a half years to work with 3 excellent county managers, including Ms. Robinson over here, and the partnerships that we have been able to build through with our county commissioners, with the staff, city-county planning has just been amazing. We can't do it on our own, and it's through those relationships that we have been able to be very successful in Forsyth County in Division 9 to bring transportation funding and much-needed projects. but we got a long way to go. So thank you again. Again, it has been a wonderful opportunity. After 38 years, I'm ready to do something different. I've done about all I can do for NCDOT, but I'm still going to be involved in transportation. I'll still be around, so I'm sure I will run into you at some point in the future. But I leave the division in great hands with folks like John Ryan and others, and I just look forward to working with you again. I will open it up if you have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll say thank you, but are there any questions by anybody else? Dan?
I also want to thank you for your work. I have had the opportunity to work with you as a city council member and now as a county commissioner on transportation projects of interest to our communities, and you have done outstanding work. Thank you. But you're not getting away that easy. Unfortunately, the Winston-Salem urban area TAC elected over my objection to move its next meeting to the middle of our regularly scheduled voting meeting on the 21st. So questions that I would normally ask you there on behalf of the county, I won't have a chance. Let me just ask for an update, not necessarily today, but perhaps if you could put together a written update in more, since this is one of my last chances to ask you, in perhaps a bit more detail than usual, on 3 of the Greenway projects in the county. There is the suggested first leg of the Piedmont Regional Greenway from Linville Road east to East Forsyth High School. There is the suggested westward extension of the Salem Creek Greenway from its trailhead at Marketplace Mall to Forsyth Tech Community College. And finally, an old personal favorite of mine, a project that I've been working on for 20 years, and that is the Brushy Fork Greenway completion south, which of course has recurring difficulties with the Norfolk Southern Railroad. If you could provide an update on that, that would be very welcome.
I will be happy to. I don't obviously have the specifics, but I will be happy to get that information to you and the rest of the board as well.
And I would be happy to have any recommendations from you about how we could work more effectively to get each of those pursued. Thank you.
I'll be happy to. Thank you. Others?
Thank you very much, Pat.
I will, if I might, just because you might be interested, obviously we are still working heavily in the western part of North Carolina with the devastation from Hurricane Helene. John and I just came back from the Board of Transportation meeting today where they provided us some updates, and things are going very well. We've opened up over 1,000 roads. We've still got about 300 left to go, and those are the hard ones to get done. Of course, you all know about Interstate 40. Of interest, as of right now, the preliminary estimate for just the infrastructure damage is $5 billion. $5 billion. Just to put that in perspective, that is more than all of the other storms in North Carolina combined since we've been keeping records on damages. So it is amazing the damage that has to be done. Obviously, we're working with our federal partners to get some reimbursements, but there's a tremendous amount of work. But the DOT, we've got folks from Division 9, in addition to staff from all over the state, over there helping open those roads back up, rebuild bridges. But I thought you would be interested in hearing that number. It's immense and something that is completely unprecedented in North Carolina. So, thank you.
Thank you again, Pat.
Thank you, sir.
John,
My
thank you
pleasure.
for being here too. All right, turn the meeting over to our county manager, Chantel Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first item on the agenda is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Peters Creek Partners LLC from GBS to RS9. Our planning and director, Chris Murphy, will brief this item.
Didn't want to jump the gun too early. I've already done that once. I'm not seeing those PowerPoints, Ashley, unless... There we Good afternoon. This first case, as the county manager read, is case F-1644. It is for Peters Creek Partners LLC for a 2.51 acre piece of property on the eastern side of Peters Creek Parkway. And the request is to rezone from GBS to RS9. Subject property shown on the countywide Legacy Growth Management Area Plan. It is located within GMA 3, close to the county line, just north of the Activity Center at the Oliver's Crossing Shopping Center on Highway 150. This is the subject property outlined in yellow. This is a partial lot, and there's a partial lot description included, but some of this area is close, is remnant property left over from other rezonings and associated with a transmission tower down there that is one of our towers that looks like a tree. This is to downzone the property from GBS back to RS9. It is general use, but I anticipate there being some subdivisions submitted further either later this spring, fall, or into next spring. Subject property shown on the countywide aerial imagery. Again, it is considerably wooded. This is the tower compound this is the compound for the transmission tower, and the circular nature on that northeastern property line is a result of the meets and bounds description, because they have to leave a fall zone for that tower. So that is part of the request, but they are leaving the area required for the tower fall zone. Subject property shown on the area plan recommendation. This is in the South Suburban Area Plan update and also in the Peters Creek Parkway corridor study. It does recommend a portion of this as commercial, but that is reflective of the existing zoning. It is also adjacent to areas recommended for moderate to intermediate density attached residential, but again, I believe this will go to single family as part of an overall comprehensively planned zone subdivision. This is looking at the subject property from across the road, Peters Creek Parkway. This is looking towards the southeast. That's looking towards the Bojangles. If you're familiar with that stoplight there at Oliver's Crossing, it's just off the screen. This is looking along Peters Creek Parkway, fronting the subject property. Again, that's looking south, so the subject property is to the left. This is a view in the subject property. The property is to the left of where those power lines are. Again, this is looking south. And this is looking from Oliver's Crossing Drive of the subject property, again, looking across Peters Creek Parkway, and there in the about the middle of the image on the left, you see the transmission tower pine tree, so to speak. This request would allow for the development of housing on an undeveloped parcel in GMA 3, which would be difficult to develop for commercial uses due to its size and shape. The rezoned property could be combined with parcels, again, to the east and potentially be developed in a comprehensive manner. The request is consistent with Legacy 2030's recommendation promoting compatible infill development. This was heard by the Planning Board at their September meeting. There were no speakers in opposition, and the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request to the Commissioners. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Go ahead.
I noticed that this was a fairly unusual, well, happens from time to time. The property of the subject of the request is within our zoning jurisdiction. The adjacent neighborhoods are right across the line in Winston-Salem. You indicated that there was no public participation at the hearing. However, this is a general use request, not a special use with any site plans. Has there been a courtesy notice to the city regarding the rezoning request?
When you say to the city of Winston-Salem,
To the city of Winston-Salem, right?
I believe the presumption there is, since we are the staff to both the city and the county, that we are representing the city in that context as well. So no, there wasn't any other notice unless the city happens to be within 500 feet of the subject property, if the city happens to own any property.
I don't recall with certainty, but I suspect this is either the south or the southeast wards. I would appreciate it if staff could provide a courtesy notice to the council members representing those wards. So if they have any concerns, they can communicate that with us.
Okay, again, they do see we do specifically send them the information ahead of time, but I would not have highlighted this case, but they do see the monthly notice we
Well,
send
if
that
it's
to
a
them
burden on
specifically.
staff, I'll call them.
Do what?
If it's a burden on staff, I'll call them.
No, it's not a burden. I'm just letting you know. Again, in that context, yes, I will be glad to reach out. I'm not sure if that is in the South Ward or Southeastern Ward, but I will make sure that they are contacted.
Thank you so much.
Does the city show us that courtesy? I'm just asking.
Not that I'm aware of.
Any more questions?
Okay. Agenda item number 2 is Mr. Murphy's as well. It's a public hearing on the zoning petition of Charles William Pettit, Evelyn Pettit, and Charles and Dawn Pettit, revocable trust from AG and RS20 to RS20.
Good afternoon again. Yes, this is a rezoning to request to go from RS20 and AG to, or maybe it's just AG. I don't believe there is any RS20 as part of this, to RS20 for almost a 40-acre piece of property located on the west side of Thomasville Road 109, close to the Davidson County, Forsyth County line. This is the subject property identified on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. It is located on the GMA3, GMA4 border. I'm pretty sure it's GMA3, but the map doesn't say that, so I will defer to the staff report. It is located, again, just north of the activity center of the shopping center on the Davidson County, Forsyth County line. It is some property that is located back within an existing neighborhood. So you have to access some existing surface streets to get to the subject property. That is shown here. The subject property, again, shown in yellow. You do have to access Southland Avenue off of Thomasville Road and then make a couple turns to get back to the subject property. Again, subject property highlighted in yellow on the county's area-wide imagery. There is sewer available to this piece of property. The area plan recommends 0 to 8 units per acre. That is what that yellow color indicates. With sewer available, it does support, again, up to 8 units per acre intensification. Of course, the request before you is RS20 zoning is what is proposed, which is about half-acre lots or 2 units to the acre. This is looking west into the subject property. This is actually looking at the property itself. That is the zoning sign on that property. This is looking west, further west into the subject property. If you notice, that property is sort of runs east-west and is narrow. That is what this is looking at, is that long, narrow piece. It kind of opens up the further west you go. We didn't go any further west because we really couldn't. This is looking south from the subject property. That is one of the houses at the end of the existing stub street. These are some images looking from Southland Avenue onto 109. Some of the testimony that was heard at the planning board dealt with the traffic concerns along 109 itself. So I did want to provide some context with these photos. Again, this is looking south along 109 towards the Forsyth County, Davidson County line from Southland Avenue. This is looking north at that same intersection from Southland Avenue, looking north along 109. This is looking at Southland. This is looking down Southland Avenue from the North Carolina 109 intersection. This is looking at Furman Drive from Langdon Road, which is one of those interior roads that goes to the subject property. In summary, the proposed request is consistent with the recommendations of Legacy 2030 for promoting compatible infill development in the serviceable land area. The proposed rezoning is also consistent with the specific land use recommendation of the South Suburban Area Plan update of single-family residential 0 to 8 units per acre. The request would allow for needed additional housing at an appropriate location in GMA 3. And again, their request is not as intense as what the area plan would support. They are requesting RS20 to be more compatible with the existing subdivision that they are tying into. This was heard by the planning board at their September 12th meeting. There were numerous speakers in opposition. Opposition concerns included traffic, both in the neighborhood and along North Carolina 109 Thomasville Road. There are concerns about crime and incompatible development and impact to property values. Following the public hearing, however, the planning board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Is that just a little bit south of where Willard Road comes into 109? And is the
That's what that image
pinpoint is. Where it? I was down that way a few days ago, and
this right here, this is Southdale. So this is if you're heading south on 109, this is the radius to turn on to Southdale. Right, if you're heading north on 109, right here is where you would go to take Willard Road. Willard Road comes in at a 45-degree angle, probably 200 feet north of where Southdale comes into this development.
is there a, probably was, and I didn't see it. Is there a sign out on this piece of property? Isn't it off of 109 to where you can't see it?
Correct.
Is there a sign out on 109?
There's not a sign out on 109, but there is a sign if you go, I don't believe this map has that. I had to go pull a map from, there it is. There's a directional sign at Southland. That's what that DS means right there. There's a directional sign. So anyone that lives in this development would know that a rezoning action was happening. There's a directional sign at Southland. There's the directional sign on Langdon, and then the actual sign that I showed was the sign on the subject property at the end of Furman Drive. So we didn't have anything out on 109 because it really doesn't affect anybody that would be driving up and down 109. It would be, we wanted to make sure that the folks that live in the neighborhood were adequately informed. So they received the mailed notice, but they also had those directional signs that were put in the neighborhood.
Well, traffic-wise, what would be affected?
Well, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, and this is a general use request, so it's hard to react as far as what would be the issues when and if they were to come through to actually submit a subdivision. Some of the information in your packet, they submitted a site plan, but that information isn't germane because that was what was sent to the neighbors. But again, this is a general use request. Under the existing zoning at 39.85 acres, you can build 43 houses. Going to RS20, it essentially doubles that. So you can have 86 houses. So, 86 times 9 trips a day ends up about 700, 800 additional trips. That information then would be handled whenever DOT was issuing the driveway permit for the construction of this. If there were any improvements that were needed on 109, they could perhaps make them install some turn lanes and those kind of things, but they can't, again, address the existing conditions on 109 except what this project would create. So if there are existing issues out there, the developer of this project can't be expected to fix the existing issues. They can only be expected to fix any issues that their development causes.
So
when does the DOT start to look at, you said when building permits is issued, do they look at, and some of the DOT people look at zoning matters that come in?
not at building permit, they would look at this whenever a subdivision was proposed. They would have to get a driveway permit to build this. These would be NCDOT roads, but NCDOT is going to look at the impact onto their system whenever the subdivision is approved. Since this is a general use rezoning, there's nothing for the state to look at. They would only look at a plan. So there's no, I mean, for a general use rezoning, generally speaking, NCDOT is not going to weigh in on that.
Well, this is 39 acres, and that's going to do roughly 80 houses or less. That's going to impact something. I've just seen it by experience with less than that, and what I'm talking about is turn lanes, particular when you're going left off into a development. That's where the main ones needs to be a lot of times. But when you get up to that amount, they're just, the traffic is just going to increase. And I'm just not pointing this particular one out. It's just at hand. And I've seen others with even less. And so.
But keep in mind, again, this is a general use request. I mean, they're requesting this, and the assumption is that they're rezoning it to do a subdivision, but they also could rezone it. I mean, again, I don't know why you would do this. They could rezone it at the end of the day, decide to only put 4 or 5 houses back there. I don't think that's going to happen. But until there is a subdivision that's actually submitted, NCDOT has nothing to react to. Neither do we as a staff. We can say, under existing zoning, you can have 43 homes, and that's going to generate X amount of traffic. And then if you double it and go from AG to RS20, you're going to double the number of homes, which is effectively going to double the trips. But the underlying zoning at AG already allows 43 homes, so the rezoning action would only be an increase of 43. So the 43 impact is this. Well, that's decided at the time that the subdivision is submitted and reviewed by our staff and by NCDOT.
About a month ago, when you were in here presenting some matters, I don't know whether somebody asked a question or it's just information you provided that 75% of the county was built out. Did I understand that correctly? Well, in my travels in the last month or so in this county, it's a whole. I went by places that I hadn't been in 4 years. So, is it 75% of the land area that's developed out?
That's a difficult question to answer because, again, sometimes when we're looking at, if someone has an acreage tract, but they have a house on it, that's considered developed. It's more properties that don't have anything on it and therefore are classified as vacant. So, but when looking at that, yes, we are 75% built out. Now, again, you could have an acreage tract that maybe has 10 or 15 acres and you've got a house and you could divide off the other 14 acres. Well, again, there are opportunities like that, but in looking at the growth management area plan, you have to draw a line somewhere. So our line is if there's not anything on it, it's undeveloped, and therefore that's where that 25. We only have 25% of our land area left for future development.
Well, if everything was built on a single level, then it wouldn't be anything left, would it?
That's true.
I have to agree with Commissioner Linville. I've been around Forsyth County right much this month. I've never seen so much vacant land. I mean, I'm happy, but I just remembered what you said, and I go, boy, there's a lot of land out here. But anyway, if you want to go with me and pick up some signs, I'll show them.
I don't want to go with you, but I definitely want you all to pick up your signs.
Oh, we will.
You can reuse them. I think, yeah.
I've just got one question. It appears from this map that the only way to get on, if that were to develop in any way, whether it was 5 houses or 40 houses, it looks like the only way to get on 109 is on that Southland Avenue little blip there that ties in. There's only kind of one way in and out. And I think that'll, at some point, that'll be a problematic issue, I think, period.
You are correct. I know, when this comes through for development, we will ask for some stub streets that go further to the west. And again, you see that they're along where Southdale comes in and then turns into Langdon. Langdon, as it goes west, has a stub street. But you're right. In order to get back to 109, you have existing houses there along that. And, if you try to turn a street and get back to Thomasville Road, you're getting down into the floodplain. So yes, we need to try to find a way to provide some extra access as we continue to move west and try to loop that back in, where hopefully we can get back out to another street either further south in Forsyth County or into Davidson County to provide some interconnectivity.
Yeah, I understand the limitations on this particular request, but because the real issue is coming up when if and when somebody wants to develop that. I see some real problems with that. Any other questions for Chris? All righty, thank you.
Agenda item number 3 is also Mr. Murphy's. It's a public hearing and consideration on a special use permit requested by Tucker Trees Farms LLC and Elizabeth Tucker for a land clearing and inert debris landfill for property located on the north side of Watkins Ford Road.
Yes, this is a 21-acre piece of property located on the north side of Watkins Ford Road between High Point Road and Watkins Landing Drive. Again, this is a request for an elected body special use permit for an LCID greater than 2 acres. I'm going to turn it over to the county attorney because, again, this is a special use permit, not a special use district rezoning, so he can explain some of the procedural differences.
Thank you, Chris. Members of the board, about every year or so, we have one of these special use permit hearings, and the reason I'm coming up is just to remind you that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. Most of what you have before you are rezonings, which are legislative. And so at a legislative hearing, you're free to talk to anybody. You're free to consider policy. That's not the case with this, a quasi-judicial hearing. So your decision must be based on sworn testimony during the hearing. And just to be clear, today's not the hearing. And so I would ask you respectfully not to ask any factual questions today, because in 2 weeks you'll have the hearing where that will come out. Certainly if you have any procedural questions, I'm happy to answer those. But Chris is here to kind of give you an overview of what the situation is. So in 2 weeks, we'll have a hearing. Anybody who's in favor or against it who wishes to speak will need to be sworn in. So it's kind of like a mini trial. You all are the judge and the jury. Please don't speak with anyone else, either yourselves or anyone outside of this, outside of the hearing in 2 weeks. The testimony must be based on relevant facts, and some testimony, including such things as traffic projections or specific property valuations, must be based on expert testimony. There are 4 required findings that will need to be made to grant this request. The first one is that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the application and plan as submitted and approved. The second one is that the use meets all required conditions and specifications. The third one is that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. And finally, the last required finding is that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the application and plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area where it's to be located, and in general conformity with Legacy 2030. Once the proponent offers evidence of those 4 findings, the burden shifts to the opponents, if there are any, to produce specific evidence that at least one of those 4 findings has not been met. And just general complaints are not sufficient evidence. And according to your rules about remote participation, a commissioner who is not physically present here in 2 weeks cannot be a part of that hearing. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for Gordon?
One for Chris. Is there, like this one, is there just a certain amount of area that can be open at one time?
Not under our ordinance. I believe there may be some limitations from their state permit, but not under our ordinance. There's not a limitation.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and proceed on with the presentation, again, just to provide some additional context, and then we'll have the hearing in 2 weeks. This is the subject property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. It is located within GMA 3, there along Watkins Ford Road to the northeast of High Point Road. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. I will let you know that the original approval by the commissioners of this was back in 2018. It was about a 6.5 acre approval that was granted in March of 2018. The residential development shown on the screen to the east of this is located within Kernersville. It was approved in December of 2018. The LCID has been open and been in operation as these homes were built and constructed and purchased. So, I mean, again, I don't know whether there'll be anyone here in opposition or not. The planning board only looked at the site plan, so there was no hearing at the planning board level since the hearing is here. But I did want to point that out, that subdivision was approved and built after the LCID was located at this site. There is the subject property on the latest countywide imagery. This is 2024 imagery. You do see the LCID on the northern portion of the site, and then they do have some soil overburden area that is on that southern portion, but you do see the Watkins Landing subdivision there to the east. This is the subject property shown on the Southeast Forsyth County Area Plan. It does recommend single-family residential 0 to 8 units per acre, but this use, an LCID greater than 2 acres, is a permitted use in the RS zoning and AG zoning, subject to the elected body special use permit. This is looking north across Watkins Ford Road at the subject property. You do see some of the existing vegetative buffer around this between Watkins Ford and the LCID operations. This is looking again north across Watkins Ford Road at the existing driveway to the subject property. That driveway, as part of this site plan, is actually going to be removed. It's going to be relocated further to the west, and there'll be an internal haul road, but the actual driveway onto Watkins Ford Road will not be directly adjacent to this subdivision. It will move further to the west and actually come in directly south of the Tucker house, which are the folks that own the LCID. So they're putting the impactful operations closer to their home. This is looking west along Watkins Ford Road. The subject property is on the right. That's just a picture of our special use permit sign. This is looking east along Watkins Ford Road, the subject property on the left. Again, that's the current haul road, and again, that road will go away as part of this plan if approved. This is looking south from the subject property across Watkins Ford Road. This is looking at the site plan. I had sent Ashley an earlier version of this that didn't have the site plan oriented the same way as the lot is. but I wanted to send that. The lighter green color is the existing LCID landfill. The darker green color within that same rectangle is the area that they are looking to expand into. The aqua color further to the west is where they plan on doing their processing area and recycling. That's one of the big things with LCID landfills is the recycling operation to keep stuff that can be reused out of the landfill and reduce that stream and prolong the life of that LCID. Same image, again, just looking at the whole site plan. The four findings that
Could
the
I
county...
interrupt you, Chris?
I'm sorry,
Could
yes,
you
sir.
go back to that last slide? Can you show where you talked about the entrance is going to be different. Where is the existing entrance now? Can you show that with your cursor? I've been trying to figure that out.
Right here. This is where the existing entrance is, directly adjacent to these homes. Under the proposed scenario, this is going to be the entrance. This is going to be their sorting area. There will be a haul road internal, so they will continue to go up this property line to get into the LCID, but the actual truck traffic will not be coming in and out onto Watkins Ford Road in this location. It will be coming several hundred feet further to the west. And again, this is where the Tucker house is, the folks that own the LCID. Okay. So they're shifting that drive entrance further to the west.
Got it. Thank you.
Again, these are the findings that the county attorney alluded to. We do make a recommendation on 3 of them. The property value, we are not qualified to address in number 3, but the proposed use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. No, we don't feel like that it will. We do think that the project and the site plan does meet all required conditions and specifications out of the UDO. Again, third finding we're not qualified for. On 4, the location and character of the use that's developed according to the application and plan submitted and approved will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with legacy. Our belief on that is yes, again, if something is allowed in the ordinance and the ordinance is based on legacy, it is presumed that it's in harmony with the area unless there is evidence presented to the contrary. As far as the recommendation, a land clearing and inert debris landfill greater than 2 acres does require a special use permit by this body following a public hearing. The planning board made a finding and submitted a site plan that they say does meet the requirements of the ordinance, and that was done at their September 12th meeting. The ask before you is to hold a public hearing and then make a determination on each of those 4 findings and then either issue the special use permit or deny the special use permit. And I normally would say I'll be glad to answer any questions. Don't ask me any specific questions related to the case, but if you have procedural questions, feel free to ask me. And we will be back in 2 weeks for the actual public hearing since you do not have a meeting next week.
Thank you.
Procedural questions. Are conditions regarding hours of operation the kind of condition that could be added to a special permit in a case like this?
I would defer to the county attorney on that. Generally speaking, hours of operation conditions are difficult to enforce, and for the most part, the city used to do those. We have gotten away from them. I'm not sure. The question has not come up at the county level. I can't remember under the use conditions if there are already hour of operation limitations, but I will be glad to look at that and also defer to the county attorney.
Thank you.
We'll be happy to look into that, Commissioner Bessie. In general, the board may apply conditions, and so we'll look into that for you. But I will echo that enforcement could be difficult.
Certainly, but if there are in applicable standards, if there are existing hours of operation for such facilities, that would be of interest as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other procedural questions? All right. Thank you.
Agenda item number 4 is a resolution recognizing November as Adoption Awareness Month in Forsyth County, and we'll have staff here next week to accept that resolution or in 2 weeks. Agenda item number 5 is approval of minutes for the meeting from today, and that'll go out next week. Agenda item number 6 is a resolution approving a revision to the fiscal year 25 Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funding and an associated amendment to the FY25 budget ordinance. Our budget director, Kyle Wolf, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council has a policy that allows JCPC funds to be used to purchase equipment with the understanding that if the program that purchases that equipment ceases operations, the equipment is either returned to the JCPC or it can be purchased by the provider at a fair market value price. And so recently, the JCPC Executive Committee met and accepted an offer of $25,000 from the Children's Center, which previously operated a shelter that offered temporary shelter and care for youth. The committee also agreed to increase the local cash match for 3 programs by $10,100 to expand service, and then place the remaining $14,900 in a budget reserve that will be reallocated at the December 2nd JCPC meeting. I'm happy to try and answer any questions you have on this.
Questions for Kyle?
Okay. Agenda item number 7 is Mr. Wolf's as well. It's an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate $10,000 received from a 2024 North Carolina Emergency Management Homeland Security Grant Program.
Right, and so Emergency Management has received $10,000 grant that will be used to purchase 3 Auxcom radio systems that can be used when our radio system becomes inoperable during natural or man-made disasters. Typically, with Emergency Management, we would transfer these funds, kind of pass them through to the city of Winston-Salem, but to kind of streamline things, we're going to just budget those in emergency services to get this equipment purchased more efficiently.
Questions for Kyle?
Thanks.
Agenda item number 8 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the City of Winston-Salem for administration of the Cure Violence Program. Our ARPA Administrator, Bailey Arnold, will brief this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. On March 17th, 2022, the Board approved a resolution to enter an interlocal agreement with the City of Winston-Salem to share the cost of the Cure Violence Program project. The city is paying $750,000 to the county, which is half of the total award amount of $1.5 million for the operation of the program. The resolution today authorizes the execution of an amendment to that agreement with the city to extend the term to June 30th, 2025, which reflects the recent extension for the Cure Violence Program that was approved by the board this summer on June 27th. The amendment also outlines in detail the schedule of payments for the remaining payments through the extended term. And the city attorney has reviewed and believes that the amendment changes are agreeable to the city. I can take any questions.
Any questions?
One question. Will we be getting an update on the impact of the Cure Violence project soon?
Actually, I can send you the 1-year report that was done from UNCG Greensboro. So I will email that out to the board.
Other questions?
Agenda item number 9 is Mr. Arnold's as well. It's a resolution reducing ARPA expenditures, claiming ARPA revenue loss, and authorizing a transfer from the Pandemic Response Special Revenue Fund to the General Fund from ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds revenue loss to pay for general government expenditures and associated items to get our revenue loss together.
Okay, thank you. The resolution and its associated budget ordinances approve a transfer from the Pandemic Special Revenue Fund to the General Fund using unclaimed ARPA revenue loss money for county payroll costs. The county has claimed $20,324,496 and may claim up to $6,800,823 in additional revenue loss. The U.S. Treasury deadline for spending an obligation of ARPA funding is December 31st, 2024, and there are ARPA projects with remaining unspent or unobligated funds with end dates beyond December 31st, whose funds can be captured with revenue loss. The transfer ensures that all funding is appropriately obligated and by the deadline and kept in the community rather than needing to be returned to the Treasury. The resolution gives the county manager the authority to identify the projects with the remaining funds to be transferred, which staff are currently evaluating for recommendation. Ongoing projects will not end with the transfer. The use of the revenue loss for payroll will make available an equal amount of money in the general fund that will be then used to continue funding the projects for the remaining amounts, and they will continue to operate their activities according to their current agreements through their end dates and with continued compliance monitoring from the county. A final report of the transferred projects and their amounts will be reported to the board, and this action ensures that the programs can expend their funding appropriately and efficiently to fulfill the project's obligations to aid the county in recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm available to answer any questions and with the assistance of the ARPA committee potentially as well.
Any questions for Bailey?
I do have a question. So knowing that the transfer is transpiring, the only thing that I want to know is, do you have an outline in terms of where those funds are going to go for the revenue loss and for staff?
So essentially, all we're doing is shifting what is categorized as ARPA to revenue loss. So the revenue loss is still staying with, to fund those programs, but we have to obligate all of those dollars by the end of December. So that makes sure that we don't have to return any money to the federal government. And then if for some reason there ends up being compliance issues with these programs, it's county dollars at this point that can be used. And then if we need to potentially take money back from anyone, we still can do that. But ultimately, we're really just shifting from the ARPA funds for the majority of the projects to the county general fund.
I heard that, but somewhere I thought I heard also.
It would be used for payroll costs.
Yes, okay. And then those payroll, just offsetting, is that what that is?
Yes, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, yes.
That's all right, that's what I wanted to be clear of. Thank you.
Other questions? We're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with EBSCO Publishing, Inc. to provide library staff and customers access to online database resources. Our library director, Yolanda Bolden, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. The Forsyth County Library is seeking to renew a contract with EBSCO Publishing Incorporated. This is to continue providing library staff and customers access to and use of the following online database resources: Novelist Select, a patron materials preference algorithm; MyHeritage is a genealogical database; and Library Aware is a marketing tool. This would be for a 3-year amount not to exceed $213,872, a planned expenditure covered by allocated funds.
Any questions for Yolanda?
Agenda item number 11 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Nurse Family Partnership to implement programming for first-time mothers at the Forsyth County Department of Public Health. Our Assistant Health Director, Sharita Sutton, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here today to request the board approval to authorize a 3-year agreement with the Nurse Family Partnership to implement NFP's programming, including technical assistance, curriculum, and staff training for first-time mothers at the Department of Public Health. This contract is for FY 25, 26, and 27, and not to exceed $142,092. Are there any questions?
I maybe have one. When I read just the description on this, it talks about basically NCDHHS is providing us $546,000 to administer, and this contract for 3 years is only $142,000. It's something just not jiving between the 546 and the 142.
So the total budget for the NFP program is $1.2 million. We receive $546 in our AA from the state, from NCDHHS, and the county contributes $666,522.
Okay, I think I get that. Thank you. I'm good. Any other questions? I may ask a few more before next week, before we meet.
Chairman Martin, if I may, The, over here, hi, the funding that we get from the state offsets the cost of the programming, including the Nurse Family Partnership agreement. That funding can only support the Nurse Family Partnership model.
I knew that part. It was just that if it's only that, and it's 546,000 that we're getting from DHSS, which is not our money, local dollars, this is only 142, so I can subtract and get basically $404,000 that I assume is restricted for the Nurse Family Partnership Program.
I could just, excuse me, good afternoon, Commissioners. Just to be a little bit more specific, and Shrita did a great job, but that basically a little over $500,000 is per year, is funding that we get per year.
Okay. That makes it a bigger question.
Oh, well, I hope I.
But never mind. I'm not going to waste our time today.
Okay.
So what is up for discussion today, this item, is just for the contracted Nurse Family Partnership. It's not for the whole Nurse Family Partnership program.
Okay.
Does that help?
No, but that's okay.
Happy to share more information.
Okay, we will clarify before the next meeting. Agenda item number 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Orchard Software Corporation to provide laboratory information software for the Department of Public Health. Our Assistant Health Director, Nicole Priddy, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Department of Public Health is requesting authorization to enter into a 3-year contract with Orchard Software Corporation for laboratory software services in an amount not to exceed $149,400. The annual cost for the software totals $49,800. The Public Health Laboratory has been contracting with Orchard Software Corporation since 2015 for its laboratory information services. This updated contract includes a system upgrade to cloud-based services. This upgrade will improve the electronic synchronization of laboratory test ordering and result reporting between the department's electronic health record system, as well as mandated state reporting of communicable diseases into the North Carolina Electronic Disease Surveillance System. Additionally, this upgrade will provide secure cloud-based storage of laboratory data and replace the outdated failing server that is currently in use. The department sought informal bids from 2 other laboratory information system vendors, and Orchard Software Corporation provided the lowest bid offer. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Daymark Recovery Services to provide security services at the Behavioral Health Urgent Care. Our Deputy Manager Denise Price will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You may remember I briefed this previously, and we have punted it to another agenda. Chairman Martin, you asked specifically about the bid process, what the bids were, and to see those. Upon further discussion with Daymark, what I learned is that they did indeed use a bid for this service, but it was a bid that had been administered by Sandhill Center, which is an LME MCO. So they've been under contract with this vendor for many years without any price increases, but it has been many years. So they have initiated a new bid, and I will be prepared to share that information with you when it's available prior to your consideration of this item.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Agenda item number 14 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement with the Winston-Salem Transit Authority for the purchase of bus passes to assist eligible recipients of Work First, Adult Services, Family and Children Services, and Medicaid Transportation Services with transportation needs. And 15 is also with WISTA, and it's for non-emergency medical related transportation. Our Social Services Deputy Director Marissa Adams will brief 14 and 15.
Good afternoon, Chairman Martin and other commissioners in your respective places, County Manager Robinson and Deputy Directors. For DSS is requesting to enter into an interlocal government agreement with Winston-Salem Transit Authority to purchase an estimated 1,800 monthly bus passes, 500 650 10-ride passes, 2,000 one-ride passes to be distributed by the Department of Social Service staff to eligible individuals in the Workforce, Adult Services, Family and Children's Services, Medicaid, transportation units through June 2025 for up to 2 additional one-year terms, ending no later than June 30th of 2027. The total contract amount shall not exceed $35,500 for each fiscal year. Any questions on that one?
Any questions?
The second one is we are requesting to enter into Winston-Salem Transit Authority desires to enter into a local agreement with Forsyth County to purchase and provide non-emergency medical-related transportation, NEMT services, to an estimated 50 medical-eligible beneficiaries. The county shall upload the authorized trips into NC Tracks, with providers entering claims for trips billing NC Tracks for payment by the state of North Carolina. The county shall provide payment for disability determination trips or trips that DSS staff has scheduled but are not approved per Medicaid NC Tracks policy. The county will receive trip reimbursement from the state. The total payments do not exceed $500 during fiscal year 2025, with the options to extend services at an annual amount not to exceed $500 in fiscal year FY 26 and 27. Any questions?
Any questions? Good, thank you.
Agenda item number 16 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Samet Corporation for the Tanglewood Park Shelter Number 4 playground replacement. Our Assistant Parks Director, Ryan Kearns, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, County Manager. The resolution before you will authorize the execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Samet Corporation for the replacement of the Tanglewood Park Shelter Number 4 playground in support of the mission of Forsyth County Parks and Recreation Department to operate, develop, and maintain a park system to meet the recreational needs of park visitors. The Forsyth County Board of Commissioners on August 6, 2020 adopted a resolution approving the 2020 two-thirds bond capital projects ordinance, of which $570,000 of 2020 Parks and Recreation Maintenance and Development project was for funding the replacement of the playground. After due advertisement on June 11, 2024, 4 responsive bids were received and opened by City County Purchasing Department for the construction phase of the playground and awarded based on the lowest total base bid to Samet Corporation. The lowest base bid was $502,381. Samet Corporation is a woman-owned company and has submitted an 11.15 MWB subcontracting goal, thereby exceeding the 10% MWB participation goal for this project. It is a recommendation of the County Manager and Parks and Recreation Director that the county enter into a contract in the amount not to exceed $502,381 with Samet Corporation to perform all demolition, site work, installation of new playground features and site amenities, and installation of poured-in-place rubberized safety surfacing as a turnkey project. Furthermore, the resolution will authorize the county manager to sign change orders in an amount not to exceed $22,000. Some additional background information and specifics for the project. The purpose is to replace a 27-year-old playground. It was constructed in 1996. The Tanglewood Playground replacement project includes demolition of existing structures, site work to include grading, drainage, concrete curbing, replacement of soil, stone finish grading, seeding, installation of the playground equipment, and installation of poured-in-place safety surface. The playground is located just to the west of shelter number 4, as you see there. This is a site location. The site encompasses approximately plus or minus 10,000 square feet. The playground is the largest of our 12 playgrounds in our Parks and Recreation system. It's currently the only playground that has engineered hardwood surface mulch as a surfacing. So poured-in-place rubberized safety surfacing will be a much-needed improvement that will allow accessibility options for all mobility types. Currently, there are multiple play elements that are in need of replacement. Unfortunately, these play elements are obsolete and no longer being manufactured. Timber edging, sidewalk improvements, and site amenities will also be replaced, such as benches, trash cans, and playground signage. And here you see playground rendering with the actual play elements that have been selected for the project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I do have a question in regards to the women-owned status of Samet, because when I did, just a simple Dr. Google, another name came up, Arthur Samet as CEO owner. And nevertheless with that, but I would like to go back to that point. I think that in conversations with the North Carolina office of HUB, there seems to be a suggestion that there are issues with women being used to quote-unquote front non-MWB businesses, so I want to put that on record. And also just in my general conversations with MWB businesses or minority businesses in this community, there is a strong perception that women are being used as fronts for non-minority-based businesses. So I want us to keep that in mind when companies come with that status, just so that, you know, we are clear about the authenticity of definitely supporting minority and women-based businesses. But I would ask if I could, at least for my state of mind, get something that confirms that Samet is true indeed a woman-owned business. And then secondly, when I did just a simple Google search, there was this issue in Gifford County that WFMY News and the Rhino Times reported a fight over MWB matters in Gifford County. So I would be interested in, you know, basically what that was about. I didn't try to go too deep into, you know, investigating that, but before I would make a vote, I would wonder what is the issue with MWB in another, you know, sister county of ours.
Sure.
Thank you.
I can also provide you with the MWBE contractors that they are proposing to use that
would be helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll provide that as well.
Other questions? Good, thank you.
Agenda items 17 through 20 are all our design and construction manager, James Anderson, and I'll just introduce each one individually, James. Agenda item number 17 is a resolution awarding a contract to Samet Corporation for the Public Health Air Handling Unit Replacement Project.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This item before you awards a contract to Samet Corporation for the Public Health Air Handling Unit Replacement Project. Project was formally bid by City County Purchasing, being advertised on August 15th and then re-advertised on September 24th after no bids were received. On October 17th, Samet submitted the only bid in the amount of $413,164 and committed to achieving 21% MWBE participation on the project. The project is ARPA funded and the costs are within funds budgeted. The resolution also authorizes the county manager to execute change orders in an amount not to exceed $25,000. The change order contingency will be funded from our 2/3 general maintenance funds, so that way if they're not used, we're not saddled with not using ARPA dollars. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for James?
I don't know if I have a question, but just a point, maybe even to James and the county manager around. I know that last night we did an MWB mixer downtown, and I had another engagement downtown, but I saw people going into that mixer, and it is unfortunate that only one person even submitted a bid. Nevertheless, any of our MWB's businesses. So I am still, hoping and advocating, lobbying that as an entity, as a county government, that we can be more proactive about making sure that one, businesses know that we are in need of these services, but two, specifically, what are we doing to make sure that we are attracting those historically underutilized businesses?
Thank you, Commissioner Woodbury. And yes, I went to the mixer and we had lots of staff there and it was great. And I hear you. We are working hard to try to be more proactive in that regard.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 18 is a resolution awarding a contract to Samet Corporation for the Annex 1 HVAC replacement project.
This item is also being awarded to Samet. The project was formally bid by City County Purchasing, with bids being received on October 10th, 2024. Samet Corporation submitted a base bid of $613,326, and InServ submitted a base bid of $799,603. Samet's bid is within funds budgeted for the project, and they have committed to 20% MWB participation on the project. This project is also ARPA funded and also has a $25,000 contingency to be funded from our 2/3 general maintenance funds. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for James? Okay.
Agenda item number 19 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Siemens Industry, Inc. for the upgrade of digital controls for the Department of Social Services facility.
This item authorizes execution of a contract with Siemens to replace outdated control panels at the Department of Social Services facility that have reached the end of their useful life. Due to Siemens controls being proprietary to Siemens Industry Incorporated, the project was not bid, as Siemens Industry Incorporated is the sole source provider for the Siemens control system. Siemens Industry Incorporated submitted a fee proposal of $306,500 to replace the panels located within the DSS facility and the DSS power plant, serving both DSS and public health. This project is funded by ARPA, and the costs are within funds budgeted. And the ARPA purchasing policy permits an exception to bidding when the provider is a sole source. And staff did reach out to another vendor that's a controls manufacturer to confirm that they would be the only ones to be able to work on this system. And to have another vendor to be able to bid, all of the downstream components from the control panels would have to be replaced at a substantially higher cost. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for James?
Agenda item number 20 is a resolution awarding a contract for the purchase and installation of electric vehicle chargers and infrastructure at the Government Center and Health and Human Services campus.
This item awards a contract to Boss Energy, LLC, in the amount of $249,474 for the purchase and installation of electric vehicle chargers and infrastructure at the Forsyth County Government Center and Health and Human Services campus. The project was bid formally by City County Purchasing as a purchase with installation. The project will install 2 dual port chargers at each site and is designed to accommodate an expansion of 8 additional chargers at each site. The chargers will support the electrification of the Forsyth County fleet, reducing our carbon emissions. On December 5th, 2019, the Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution to move towards using clean and renewable sources of energy. Bids were received ranging from $249,474 to $969,712. The project is funded in the 2022 PAYGO CPO, and the bid submitted by Boss Energy is within funds budgeted for the project. And Boss Energy did submit with their bid. They intend to use Atom Power, which is a North Carolina-based manufacturer of charging technology. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
It's an unbelievable range of prices. I mean, from 250 to almost $1 million. And the closest one being over 115,000 away. We are positive they can do the work and our specs were clear.
Yes, sir.
I mean, usually when there's wide range like that, the people misinterpreted the specifications differently.
Yeah, from what I gathered, talking with the different vendors that had reached out with questions during the bidding phase, is that it really comes down to the technology that's being used and the charger manufacturer, with some being more expensive than the others. And
we didn't specify the
we had a performance-based specification.
Okay.
So and from early on, the engineer verifiable results that was putting together the bid package for us, Atom Power was really interested and had indicated they were going to be very aggressive in their pricing when it went out to bid. And I think that showed in the bid that they submitted through Boss Energy.
So the more of these, assuming the future holds many more, then we're basically then being locked into that material. Because obviously you don't want a zillion different manufacturers of the charging
Correct.
issues. We've got different stations to maintain and take care of it.
That's correct.
So you feel good about them.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, others?
Couple of questions. What type of chargers are we talking about? Fast, trickle, what?
These are level 2 fast chargers.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, where are you going to put the two at the government center?
They're going to be located up here on the 5th floor, centered right there in the middle of the parking area, kind of where we already have existing fleet vehicle parking. From an infrastructure standpoint and an operation standpoint, it'll make things simple for staff. They'll come up to the kiosk, they'll check out a vehicle, and they can go right out and grab one of the electric cars. And so we are planning to have the system set up so that the vehicles will be assigned to folks that are doing a significant amount of driving each day, so that we maximize the benefit of having the electric vehicle.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just said thank you.
Total number of cars that could be charged in this at full capacity? 8? Did I hear that right?
Yes, sir. 4 at each site. And depending on, the day of time that one's charged, you could roll through and, you could have a vehicle that's charged overnight, one that comes back during the day, gets plugged in and charged during the day, and then gets swapped out for another one. So there is some mechanism there to be able to charge more than just 4. But the maximum at one time would be 4.
Other questions for James?
All manufacturers that make the electric vehicles, is the plug-in hookup, is it standardized across the industry?
So my understanding right now, it's not standardized across the industry on the vehicles, but they are moving towards a standard plug. Then there are adapters that will convert from the standard. Minor might know offhand what the designation is of that particular cord type. But for instance, if you've got a Tesla, you can use an adapter and go from the Tesla to this charger, or if you've got a Ford, you can plug into the Ford with this charger. So it won't have us tied to any particular vehicle manufacturer to be able to charge.
Yeah, I thought Tesla agreed to let them. Obviously, they agreed to be the universal. Everybody kind of agreed that theirs would be the universal charger. Am I not remembering that right?
I'll be honest. When it comes to the plug-in end of it, that's outside of my area of expertise. The infrastructure back end, I can help you out a lot with that one.
Minor's going to add a 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Minor.
So the standard plug for all of the cars manufactured by the companies besides Tesla is the combined charging standard. It's a J1772 connection. And up until a couple of years ago, the North American charging standard was unique to the Tesla cars and their drivers. But in the last 2 years, there have been negotiations underway that have resulted in approximately 30 other car manufacturers reaching agreements with Tesla to start incremental having incremental access of drivers of their cars to the Tesla charging network because the network of chargers is so robust. And so they're currently a lot of them are already providing the adapters with the new cars being sold. And we do anticipate that the Tesla version North American Charging Standard connection will become probably the standard in the market in the foreseeable future.
And that's what we're putting in.
But, now it requires more than just the connection adapter. The people driving the other types of cars have to have the appropriate software or phone application on their cell phone to be able to turn the charger on. It's not just a matter of having the connection, it's a matter of being able to activate it. And Tesla is opening up access to parts of their charging network incrementally. They're not just throwing the doors open to every charger everywhere for everybody. There's a strategic plan that's being implemented to transition in that direction. But I do believe that the Tesla connection will become the standard for at least for the American market in the foreseeable future. And I think that, by as early as 2025, 2026, we might see the other companies selling new vehicles with that connection already included as standard equipment.
And while you're at the podium, the money that we had budgeted for 2 or 3 years ago for cars, I think it was $400,000 or something, I assume, and we have yet to buy any. And part of it was waiting for, waiting for state price contract and the standard, which still does not exist. But there are some, apparently somebody's doing a new one like this being released. I don't know. Where are we getting the cars to go now with the chargers? I'm just kind of.
So for obvious reasons, we didn't want to have cars that we didn't have the ability to charge.
Yep.
And we, need to see the installation of these chargers proceeding intentionally and make sure there are no supply chain disruptions that affect the completion of these projects. And we intend to start moving towards some purchasing agreements for the first 8 vehicles. And it's not unlikely that the best fit, the vehicle that will meet our needs currently might be the new Chevrolet Equinox.
Yeah,
I saw one driving down 4th Street last week.
Yeah.
And next model year, the 2025 model year, we should see Chevrolet resume manufacture of the new version of the Chevrolet Bolt, which was a very popular vehicle that was on the market for 7 years and they discontinued manufacturing that last year, but it's coming back with the Ultium battery pack and a faster charging capacity and slightly increased range. So I think it'll be a higher performing vehicle that will be close to the same price that the former model was. It was like the next generation Bolt coming out in model year 2025, or that's the plan that they've announced. So we're trying to keep our finger on the pulse of everything that's occurring in the marketplace with vehicle availability, pricing, performance standards, and keeping an eye on what's on that state purchasing contract with pre-negotiated pricing.
Thank you. All righty.
Agenda items number 21 through 23 are reports. We have the August 2024 Human Resources Report, September 2024 Human Resources Report, and the September Contribution-Based Benefit Cap Report. And just so you know, we'll be adding a Q1 finance report. So you'll see that added as a report and monthly reports on that moving forward. I do just want to, we've been chatting each other during the meeting. I do believe the woman-owned business is a typo in the resolution. Just so you know, on Samet, I do not believe they're a women-owned business, but we will get the subcontracting MWBE information to you, and we'll clarify that. I don't know why that's in the resolution, to be quite honest. So we're working on that. And then just a reminder that the NCACC Legislative Goals Conference is next week, so we do not have a briefing. And so we will see you all at the November 21st meeting.
All righty. We're adjourned.